Howdy guys, it's Joe here today talking to you guys about some misconceptions about competitive and ranked that I feel like might be losing you some games. Now you might already know about a few of these, but maybe not know the rest, and you might even know them all, but getting a friendly reminder I'd say is always really helpful and will always help you win a lot of games. If you feel like you're stuck at a certain rank right now, and if you feel like you cannot improve and not get past there, and you're wondering what's holding you back, I feel like some of these can help you, and just kind of hearing somebody else say it might open up that in your mind yourself. Anyways, with that said, let's just get started. So the first thing, and I don't really know where this misconception actually came from, but I see it really often, is people thinking that because people won't join voice chat, that same person won't cooperate on anything else. And I'm gonna say straight off, this is really just completely false, and you shouldn't really believe this at all. I don't know why people are always saying this, or people are always thinking this, but it's just something that kind of goes on, and I guess it's because they've had bad experiences with people that aren't joining voice chat in the past. But you have to remember that a lot of these players still want to win, still going to try their best, and maybe just have different reasons for not wanting to join voice chat. Maybe during the last 3 games, they haven't done the best and their team has been flaming them in voice chat. Of course they wouldn't want to join it again, and maybe they're even doing really well, but people keep giving them commands on what to do, or keep saying do this, do that, and they just don't want to exactly hear it by voice. But a lot of times they will look at what's typed and take that into account. As well with this, I feel like a lot of people just kind of believe that if they won't join voice chat, the player is being toxic, or maybe they just won't give up their role, they won't cooperate with the team comp. That's obviously not always true, and a lot of the time that isn't really true at all. You should just try to cooperate with this player, try to talk to them, try to get a nice team comp and just play from there. And if they aren't joining voice chat, of course that's not optimal, but especially as many of the people on console have figured out, you don't need voice chat to win. It's just a nice thing that you can get if you can get it. Secondly, and probably one of my #1 things that I feel like people really have a big misconception with in Overwatch and in ranked and competitive whatever, is that they're putting too much effort in improving their aim. And that's really good, improving your aim, but they aren't putting in enough effort at positioning and game sense and learning what to be and learning team comps and learning when to be where and when to use your ultimates, all that type of stuff. I see a lot of players putting in a lot of time and telling me that they're putting in a lot of time getting better accuracy. They have like 90% accuracy, 95% accuracy, insanely high accuracy, doing really well with characters like McCree, Soldier, Widowmaker, any of those characters. But then you see that they're still stuck where they are. I'm going to say in a lot of cases, you can improve your aim, but improving your positioning and improving your game sense will increase how high you are in your ranking a lot quicker than simply improving your aim. Knowing where to be and when to be there makes it that often you can hit even half as many shots, but still be just as effective, because, you're using your abilities a little bit better, you're being a lot safer, you're not going to die as fast. Overall, I'm just going to say maybe watch a few more VODs, see a little bit more esports, or just listen to your teammates a little bit more and just try to figure out a little bit more about positioning, about game sense, about where you should be, and of course, watching guides and stuff like that can help you a lot there. I'm going to say again, though, that, getting better at aiming is important, but you shouldn't put that as your #1 most important thing of all time, as I see really a huge majority do. Another thing that's actually quite weird and that you don't really think about way too often, that does happen a lot and that I see a lot in games, from my own games and hearing people, is that people kind of think that when the opponent's at a higher rank, they are always better than your teammate that's at a slightly lower rank on the same hero, no matter what the situation is. Even if your teammate happens to main a character, let's say that they main Soldier, and they have a ton of hours on Soldier, and the enemy team just has some random guy that maybe has an equal distribution of support, DPS, and tank, playing Soldier as well, often people will just not trust their person on their team that has so much time on this character, and think that, the higher ranks are always better. Now this can be especially bad when you're thinking to yourself, we have this Soldier guy, we have whatever character, insert character here main, that knows how to play their character, but at the same time, we have another person on our team that is a little bit higher rank, so we should force them onto DPS, because obviously you're gonna do a lot better at DPS, the most important role, because, they're a little bit higher rank. That's what I see happen quite often, and that's something that you should never try to do. Realize that people at the same rank, one might be better than the other one at a certain hero or at certain situations or knowing how to do certain stuff, and just kind of keep that in mind. Build a team comp a little bit more around that and ask people what they are good at. Just remember that maybe your Soldier is Grandmaster while theirs is top 500. Yours can still do a little bit better in a lot of situations, and you should still trust that player even if the rank isn't quite as high. Now, a thing that I've heard also quite often is people not trusting their teammates at all. Like, at all. A lot of the times people just happen to think that their teammates are dumb and that you should make all the plays by yourself. that you should always be the leader on your team, and that if you are not the leader, your chances of winning have very drastically improved. But I'm going to say that that's not always true. You should try to trust your teammates. Of course, if you do personally have a really good idea of what to do, and if you know amazing game sense, maybe you can tell your teammates, maybe you should go over there. That's a good idea. But a lot of the times, people won't do that. They won't really talk to their teammates. And as well with that, when their teammates say an idea or say a suggestion to them, they don't really think that they should do it, because of course their teammates could never be smarter than them. Their teammates could never know a little bit more, have a bit more game sense, or have a really nice strategy in place that you might have never thought of before. A lot of times you just kind of assume that your teammates are dumb and that you should just do it all yourself. But if we have a world where everybody does this, then we have 6 different players that have completely different strategies, and no one's really gonna end up working in the end. If you do get into the position where you are the one that's being dominant, giving the shot calls, that's completely fine. Keep doing what you're doing. But if there's someone else and you're trying to, have a balance of power between you and them, maybe just support what they're doing. Try to hype up your team with their strategies and see how they work out. And of course, if it doesn't work game 1, you could ask if you could be the one kind of telling people what to do in the second game, and just kind of mix it up from there. Or I guess if they're being really toxic, you could mute them. I'm just gonna say, maybe trust your teammates a little bit more, and remember that if they're at the same rank as you, they've had to put in essentially the same amount of work as you, so they should be pretty good, and it's a lot better for the most part to get your teammates really with good morale than with you being 100% always the captain. And finally, essentially the number one thing that I've heard again and again and again and again by a lot of ranks, but it kind of decreases, I guess, the higher up you go, is the fact that people say that you need to play DPS. I haven't really heard this by way too much YouTubers, or I guess way too much big public figures, but while actually playing games, and especially while playing Smurf games with my friends and, just kind of getting into that community a little bit, a lot of people seem to have the idea that if you aren't playing DPS, you can't go up in rank. You can't win games, and that whatever character you're playing, no matter how strong they are, no matter what their carry potential is, if they're not DPS, you probably can't have the opportunity of moving up and carrying yourself and winning. I just want to say that's not true at all. Of course, the majority of top 500 players are DPS, which I feel like I wish was somewhat changed somehow, the algorithm, but that's just kind of how it works. But for all the other ranks, there's a really good mix of DPS, support, and tank, and there needs to be those different characters. I feel like with this idea that you have to play DPS, it actually kind of supports you to not play the other characters. If there's so many DPS that are trying to fill in the role, if you can play a half-decent support or a half-decent tank, well, you're better than the majority of the other tanks and the other supports that are just forced onto that role, and you can climb a lot faster and a lot easier. Of course, it might be a little bit harder to carry, but simply by being better than the other people in your role, you can win with even a little bit less effort. As well with this, I want to remind you guys that while DPS do have the highest damage output, that doesn't mean that they always have the highest carry potential or the highest, potential to win a team fight. Often an ultimate like Reinhardt can win you an entire team fight by itself. Something like Zarya, super high impactful, and of course, would you say a Rez is more impactful or a High Noon is more impactful? Personally, I would say the Rez. There's just a lot of different cool things about this game that support tanks and supports, I guess, and they can help you win. They do have a lot of huge strengths, and especially engaging as tanks and being able to pick where you want to go in and when you want to be there can win you a lot. If you're an amazing support player and you simply don't die, you're also going to be a lot better than the majority of your other support players that you play against, because a lot of them just simply die a little bit too often. And if you can be the one that doesn't die, that keeps your teammates alive for a lot longer, your teammates, for the most part, are going to win their team fights. Even if your, McCree 75% as accurate as the other McCree, if he's being healed, he's still gonna win for the most part, and that can really go with a lot of different characters. Just simply by staying alive, positioning well, knowing when to engage, and getting your teammates to engage, pretty much being able to pick where they are and making so that your DPS plays well and plays with good positioning, it can win you a lot of games, and I feel like a lot of people really undervalue that. And again, of course, since there's other people that really aren't playing these characters and really focusing more on DPS, it's going to be quite easy for you to carry yourself up, as a lot of other people won't really be great, especially as support. We don't see way too many of those players. But even as a lot of tanks, we see a lot of Roadhogs, but not really way too many other people, and if you can learn one of the other tanks, especially Reinhardt, you can really help your team win quite a few games. But anyways, that's at least my own opinion about this topic, about some of the things that I feel like have just kind of popped up over the last few seasons that I don't know exactly why they exist. I don't know why these stigmas go on, but that you might believe in yourself that you probably shouldn't. And if you can happen to change your mind a little bit on these, it can actually win you quite a few games and help yourself climb even 100 to 200 SR. Anyways, as always, guys, thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like. Comment down below what you personally feel like are some of the big misconceptions that you see. And as always, guys, thank you all for watching, and have a wonderful day.